Hey guys, welcome back. Today is the last day of distance learning, and Monday we'll be back in the classroom. I'm so excited to see you. But for now, let's get to work. Go ahead and get your government book out and your packet. So you're going to need this book, and you'll need the packet that you've been working in all week, this packet. So go ahead and pause the video, get those two things out, and then push play when you are ready. Okay, guys, if you do not have your government book, that's okay. I have the text on the computer for you. If you have your government book, then you can use that. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Our job today, we're going to annotate details in the story. So we're going to look at details in the story to help us summarize. We're not going to pick out, remember, when we're writing a summary, we're writing the main events. But we're looking to see what are those most important details that help us understand the main event. We're not going to be writing every single detail, just those big details, the details that connect to the main event. So we're going to write summaries for what's happening in the story. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to read the text to you. If you would like to read it by yourself, that's fine. You can hit pause and go ahead and do that, and then push play when you're ready. I'm not going to read the excerpt because we've read the story a couple times now. So I'm going to just go ahead and start in paragraph 1. But you're welcome to pause it and read the excerpt if you would like to do that. Okay. So I'm going to start paragraph 1. I'm going to read the whole text to you, and then we will come back and work on writing a summary for this text. Remember, a summary is when you tell someone what's happened in the story without giving them all the details. You just give them the main ideas, the main details, the big events. Okay. All right, so we're starting in paragraph 1. If you would follow along, or you can push pause and read it to yourself. They slowly walked back to camp. The tall man was the Texas Attorney General, the chief law enforcement officer for the state. Stanley's lawyer was named Miss Marengo. Stanley held the suitcase. He was so tired he couldn't think straight. He felt as if he was walking in a dream, not quite able to comprehend what was going on around him. They stopped in front of the camp office. Mr. Sir went inside to get Stanley's belongings. The Attorney General told Mr. Pendinsky to get the boys something to drink and eat. The warden seemed as dazed as Stanley. "You can't even read," she said to Zero. Zero said nothing. Miss Marengo put a hand on Stanley's shoulder and told him to hang in there. He would be seeing his parents soon. She was shorter than Stanley, but somehow gave the appearance of being tall. Mr. Pendinsky returned with 2 cartons of orange juice and 2 bagels. Stanley drank the juice, but didn't feel like eating anything. "Wait," the warden exclaimed. "I didn't say they stole the suitcase. It's his suitcase, obviously, but he put my things from my cabin inside it." "That isn't what you said earlier," said Miss Marengo. "What's in the suitcase?" the warden asked Stanley. "Tell us what's in it, then we'll open it and see." Stanley didn't know what to do. "Stanley, as your lawyer, I advise you not to open your suitcase," said Miss Marengo. "He has to open it," said the warden. "I have the right to check the personal property of any of the detainees. How do I know there aren't drugs or weapons in there? He stole a car, too. I've got witnesses." She was nearly hysterical. "He is no longer under your jurisdiction," said Stanley's lawyer. "He has not been officially released," said the warden. "Open the suitcase, Stanley." "Do not open it," said Stanley's lawyer. Stanley did nothing. Mr. Sir returned from the office with Stanley's backpack and clothes. The Attorney General handed Miss Marengo a sheet of paper. "You're free to go," he said to Stanley. "I know you're anxious to get out of here, so you can just keep the orange suit as a souvenir or burn it, whatever you want. Good luck, Stanley." He reached out his hand to shake, but Miss Marengo hurried Stanley away. "Come on, Stanley," she said. "We have a lot to talk about." Stanley stopped and turned to look at Zero. He couldn't just leave him there. He couldn't just leave him here. Zero gave him a thumbs up. "I can't leave Hector," Stanley said. "I suggest we go," said his lawyer, with a sense of urgency in her voice. "I'll be okay," said Zero. His eyes shifted toward Mr. Pendinsky on one side of him, and then to the warden and Mr. Sir on the other. "There's nothing I can do for your friend," said Miss Marengo. "You were released pursuant to an order from the judge." "They'll kill him," said Stanley. "Your friend is not in danger," said the Attorney General. "There's going to be an investigation into everything that's happened here. For the present, I am taking charge I am taking charge of the camp. Come on, Stanley, said his lawyer. Your parents are waiting. Stanley stayed where he was. His lawyer sighed. May I have a look at Hector's file? She asked. Certainly, said the Attorney General. Miss Walker, go get Hector's file. She looked at him blankly. Well? The warden turned to Mr. Pendinsky. Bring me Hector Zeroni's file. He stared at her. Get it, she ordered. Mr. Pendinsky went into the office. He returned a few minutes later and announced the file was apparently misplaced. The Attorney General was outraged. What kind of camp are you running here, Miss Walker? Okay, so now we have read the whole story. We read it 3 times now. We're going to write a summary for what this story is about. What if you were writing a summary? Remember, a summary is when you tell someone what the whole story is about. So if we were going to write a summary for the whole text and we wanted to tell someone what this whole piece, remember, we don't have the whole story, we just have a little piece of it. But if we wanted to write a summary for what this piece of the story was about, from the beginning, from paragraph 1 all the way to paragraph 40, what would we say? Well, we want to tell them the main parts of the story. So in the very beginning, we know that Stanley's being released. His lawyers come to release him, and he should be excited, but he's not. And why? We need to think about why he's not excited. We need to include that, but we don't want a ton of details that we don't need. So let's start from the very beginning. Stanley is, let's see, maybe I need to make it smaller. Maybe that will help. Okay. Stanley is in a detention camp with several other boys and is being released. Okay, so we know one, we need to tell them where he's at. He's at a detention camp. We know there are several other boys there, so this is a boys' camp, and he's being released. That's really important for where we're at in the story. The main thing that's happening right now is that he's being released. Let's say he should be happy, but he is not because he is worried about leaving his friend Zero. So he should be happy that he gets to go home. We have said he's at the camp. We know he's being released. So at the very beginning of the story, he's at the camp. In the middle, he's being released. And then he should be happy at the end, but he's not because he's worried about leaving his friend Zero. So those are all what happened at the beginning, what happened in the middle, what happened at the end, all the parts of the story. Now, let's see that I spelled a word wrong here. So let's go back and fix that real quick. Okay, now remember, when you're writing a summary, you do not want every single detail, just the main parts. So I have not included that the warden's really mean. I didn't include anything about the warden saying that he stole her things. I didn't include anything about a suitcase. I didn't include anything about her saying they stole a car. I didn't include anything about how they can't find Hector's file, because all of those things are very little details. That would be telling someone every single thing that happened. In a summary, we don't want to tell them every single thing, just those main parts, just those main parts of the story. Okay? So this tells us the beginning, the middle, and the end. That's a good summary for the whole text. Sometimes they will ask you for the summary of the whole text, but sometimes they want a summary for just a small portion of it. They're going to say like just paragraphs 1 through 7 or 7 through 14. And so you have to go back and read just those paragraphs and write a summary for just that part of the story. So we've written a summary for the whole text. Now I'm going to give you an example of how to write a summary for just a piece of the text. So we're going to write a summary for paragraphs 1 through 7. Now I need to go back and read paragraphs 1 through 7. That's the first thing, because right now I've read the whole story. I'm not sure what happened in 1 through 7 and what happened later in the story. So I go back and read paragraphs 1 through 7 first. Then I work on writing a summary for it. While I'm reading paragraphs 1 through 7, I'm going to annotate. I'm going to underline what is the most important events that are happening within these paragraphs. So let's go back to paragraphs 1 through 7. Everybody should be in paragraph 1. It says they slowly walked back to camp. The tall man was the Texas Attorney General, the chief law enforcement officer for the state. Stanley's lawyer was named Miss Marengo. Okay, so one thing that I know that's really important here is that Miss Marengo is there. I need to know that that's Stanley's lawyer. So one really important thing is that Stanley's lawyer, Miss Marengo, is there. And I'm going to find out in just a little bit why. We know that she's there to release him. Okay, it says Stanley held the suitcase. He was so tired he couldn't think straight. He felt as if he was walking in a dream, not quite able to comprehend what was going on around him. Now, there's nothing in that paragraph that's a huge event. That's just kind of telling me how he's feeling, that he's tired. There's no big event there, so I'm going to move on. Paragraph 3. They stopped in front of the camp office. Mr. Sir went inside to get Stanley's belongings. So if they're going to get his belongings, think about why would they get those belongings? They're getting his things from the camp so that he can take his things back to his house because he's leaving. He's being released. The Attorney General told Mr. Pendinsky to get the boys something to eat and drink. That's a tiny detail. I don't need to know that they're getting a bagel or they're getting orange juice or any of that. Those are tiny, tiny things. Paragraph 4. The warden seemed as dazed as Stanley. You can't even read, she said to Zero. Zero said nothing. That's not really a major thing. She's not being very nice. That probably hurts Zero's feelings, but that's not a major event, so I'm going to move on. So far what I have that is very important is that Stanley's lawyer is there. Her name is Miss Marengo, and they're getting Stanley's belongings because he's getting ready to go home. So paragraph 6. Miss Marengo put a hand on Stanley's shoulder and told him to hang in there. He would be seeing his parents soon. So if he's seeing his parents soon, that means, sorry y'all, that line is, he's going to be seeing his parents soon. That means he's going home. He's being released. And she put a hand on his shoulder. Think about why would she put a hand on his shoulder? Remember how he's feeling? He's feeling tired, in a daze. He's worried about Zero. So she's put a hand on his shoulder and if she's telling him to hang in there, then she's trying to comfort him. She's trying to make him feel better. Like, it's okay, Stanley. You know, you're going to be seeing your parents soon. She's trying to make him feel better. Paragraph 7, she was shorter than Stanley, but somehow gave the appearance of being tall. That's not really important. That just tells me what she looks like. That's not a big event in a story. Those are some very small details. Okay, so now if I'm going to use these things I've annotated, I marked what was the most important parts, most important events within paragraphs 1 through 7. So now for my summary, I'm going to use what I've annotated. So when I go back and look at paragraph 1, I have that Stanley's lawyer is there named Miss Marengo. And in paragraph 3, they're getting Stanley's belongings. So I'm going to start my summary with that. Okay. So I'm going to say Stanley. And I might include where he's at. Stanley is at a detention camp but is being released. So when they went to get his belongings, that tells me that he's being released. So Stanley's at a detention camp and he's being released. His lawyer, Miss Marengo, is there to get him out. Okay, now in paragraph 6, so I've got the beginning. He's at a detention center, and in the middle, he's being released. Miss Marengo's there to get him out. Now, at the very end of this section, remember, we're not talking about the whole story, just this section 1 through 7. At the very end, she's putting her hand on his shoulder, and she's saying, hang in there. You're going to be seeing your parents soon. So the lawyer is trying to make him feel better. So I know that he's feeling kind of upset. He's worried about leaving Zero, but his lawyer's trying to make him feel better. So I'm going to say Stanley is upset about leaving his friend, but his lawyer tries to comfort him. And so far, that's all that has happened. So far, we haven't heard anything about the warden. The warden hasn't talked about the suitcase at all. They haven't said anything about getting Zero's file. So those are things that we might talk about if we were going to do a summary for just paragraphs 8 through something, or 19 through 24, or if you were going to pick out another section, you would include some of those details. But for paragraph 1 through 7, none of those things have happened. So that's it for this summary. In the beginning, paragraph 1, we have Stanley's lawyer, Miss Marengo. She's there to get him out. They're getting his belongings. And then we have that he's kind of upset, and she's put her hand on his shoulder and telling him to hang in there, trying to comfort him. And so far, that's all that's happened. So that's all that I'm going to include in that summary. Now, I did not include that the warden said Zero can't read. That's not a huge detail. That's a minor little detail. That's not going to be included in my summary. The summary is just for those major events, not all the small details. Okay? All right, guys. So I have shown you how to write a summary for the whole text and how to write a summary for just a portion, paragraphs 1 through 7. You are going to practice writing a summary for just a section of the text. You've got that in your packet, and I'm going to show you in just a minute where you should be. And then we will check your answers on Monday. I'm not going to put the correct answers in the video. I want to see what you can do, and then we'll check them on Monday. So you should be on the last page in your packet, and it should look like this. Your directions say, turn to page 20, read pages 20 through 24. We've already done that. Watch the instructional video to see an example of how to summarize the text as a whole. I've shown you how to do that. The video will show you another example of how to summarize paragraphs 1 through 7. That's what we just did. So now you're ready for your job. It says you will then summarize the rest of the text independently. We will check these when you come back to school on Monday. So number 1, it says read paragraphs 8 through 26. So the very first thing you should do is go back and read just that section. You start at paragraph 8, you stop at paragraph 26. Read all of those paragraphs. That's the first thing you should do. Then it says you're going to underline details and take notes about important details that will help you summarize what you read. So just like I underlined what was really important, what were the big events, you need to do the same thing. That's going to help you write your summary. And then it says write a 5-line summary of the excerpt. Don't worry about writing 5 lines. Don't worry about that. I just want you to write a summary. Think about what those important details were and write a summary just like I did, okay? Because 5 lines, if you try to write 5 sentences, you're going to include way too many details. So don't worry about writing 5 lines. Just worry about writing a summary. All I want in a summary are the main events. A summary should not have a bunch of tiny details, okay? And then number 2, it says read paragraphs 27 through 40. So you're going to start at paragraphs 27, go all the way to paragraph 40. Again, you're going to underline those details that are really important, the really big events. When you get done with that, you're going to write a summary of just what happened in paragraphs 27 through 40. It says 5 lines. Do not worry about writing the 5 lines, because if you try to write 5 sentences, you're going to write way too many details, okay? All right, I hope you guys have a great Friday. I hope that this helped you and that you've got a better idea of how to write a summary. If you have any questions, I know summary is one of our hardest skills in 4th grade. If you have any questions, you can send me a comment on Google Classroom. You can have your parents send me a remind message, or we can do Google Meet and I can help you a little bit, okay? If you need any help, let me know. Reach out. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye, guys.